Okay. Can you see something that says the agenda for today?
Yep, I can
Okay,
see it.
Looks
great.
good.
So we are Circular Economy Club Seattle. We're working on towards a vision of something called Circular Seattle. But we're just a club right now. This is a worldwide club. I think we explained this last time. And we just took a lot of their stuff and did a few events. So it's a bunch of people, strangers we met on the internet around circular economy stuff. So at that last event, we had at the end, well, we had a mapping event. So we just collected a bunch of data. Let me just make sure that I can let people in. We collected a bunch of data. I might not do full screen so that way I can see if people need to get in the room. And then, so we started collecting that data and put it together. And then at the end of the evening, we had a survey that we sent out to everybody and asked people what do they want to see from Circular Economy Club, and how do they want to be involved. And we took all that and put that into a bunch of vision, mission, and strategies from what we heard. And that was a lot of Danny's beautiful work. I took a lot of what Danny did. Danny took all the responses and even like coded it. So like this percentage of people said this percentage of people said this. And all that's available. So we want to share that with this community as well. But so from that we came up with this concept. So what you'll see our Circular Seattle's or Circular Economy Club's theory of change, vision, mission, and 6 strategies. A lot of from your input. Briefly share updates on a few different initiatives we're focused on that are related to those strategies. Invite you to join our alpha tests of our Circular Seattle community, which is going to be one of our strategies. And then hopefully end with a few questions and next steps. So that's the general overview. All of this sort of theory of change, vision, mission is all connected to here. So our 6 strategies are right here, and you'll see how that's connected. They're color coded for a reason. That's all connected to our mission, our vision. So this is called a backcasting. Actually, I can just realize I can do full screen now. So this over here is our vision. This is what we're trying to get to. A Circular Seattle, Circular Economy Club. We're looking at like 2050. So what does that even look like? And how do we work backwards from that? And so you'll see what that is and how that relates to our projects and eventually to our strategies. So you'll be able to, I can send you guys this link. You'll be able to see some of our, deeper work and surveys, some of that stuff. This is our background. This is about the event we all did together. We did one in October, and then we did one in February. We probably had about 200 people all together. Then the document goes into how we can add value to, basically creating a local circular economy in the Puget Sound region, and reduce pressure on the environment, waste prevention, or designing out waste, eco-design, reuse. So these are all things, create green jobs, boost sustainable economic growth. This is still all a work in progress, and we're looking for your feedback. I wanted to jump right into the vision. So we came together with this, we voted on it and figure out some of these words. And so we're looking for feedback on this as well. But we catalyze connectivity and innovation for a regenerative, restorative, and circular economy. We foster collaboration and ingenuity across private, nonprofit, government, community, and academic sectors to accelerate the transition to a self-sustaining, local, and equitable circular economy for our region and the planet. So that was one we kind of landed on. The mission is to create and sustain a community network and resource hub that pioneers circular economy methods and innovations, circulates materials that extend the economic value of production, the supply, and the consumption, the demand, with a positive ecological footprint, and then promotes the opportunity for equal access and benefits throughout the Puget Sound region. So from that, we came up with 6 strategies, as well as things that you guys kind of voted on. You guys said you wanted these types of things. So these are related in sort of order of interest. Increase connectivity and collaboration between orgs and individuals, and improve material flow. Promote content to expand awareness in the region that invites action. So if you look at this color, number 1, it's actually connected to the strategy. It's just a shorthand version. So expand awareness, engagement and content. Establish steward connected communities of practice and self-learning, learning hub. Engage influence in public officials, elected official engagement. Build towards a just transition to a circular economy, just transition. And then a moonshot. What is our community vision towards a circular economy? And how do we work backwards from that? That's this idea of moonshot. Like, what are we trying to get to? In the end, I think someone at the event called it an earth shot. But this sort of metaphor of a moonshot means, like, what is our vision and how do we work towards it? So I'll just finish this last piece and then, we'll pause for a second. But these are our basic theories of change. So we're using the double loop model, the theory of change model, and the butterfly diagram. You've seen the butterfly diagram, that's the circular economy model. But the double loop model is a model put out by a woman named Deborah Fries and the Berkana Institute. And it's really a simple idea of how do we transition a dominant system, so in this case, a linear system, and how do we transition to more a newer system that we want to see emerge? So in our case, a circular economy. So in this dominant system, as it starts to peak and starts to fall, like we're seeing, we're running out of resources and we're filling up the ocean and all these things, you see pioneers of alternative systems come up. So these are circular pioneers. Then in order for them to actually work together, we need to connect them. So that's kind of what we've been starting to do, is starting to connect them and build networks. The vision of the goal of this is actually to create communities of practice. And how do we nourish and grow communities of practice? And that's in essence what we're hoping to show you today. This is kind of our goals today, is can we actually start creating these communities of practice? And eventually they can become a system of influence. And then, pretty much standard theory of change models, who, what, when, how, where, and why, and then just kind of connecting that into long-term and intermediate goals. And the last one is, this one, this is our main kind of staple of how we're all agreeing to work together, is we have this shared understanding of this basic structure of circular economy. So now how does this right here connect to this? So like I mentioned, these colors are connected to our strategies. This model, these pioneers are these projects right here. So you'll start seeing a few projects. These are all projects moving towards a vision, which I will show you here, of a circular economy, right? We want to see, like, here's our vision statement. Here is this idea of a vision, like, how do we vision together? How do we pretend like it's 2050? And this is work we need to do together. What does it look like? What do the articles say? What is the science fiction that helps us inspire a story of what we want this world to look like? And so that's work we want to do with you guys. And that's one of our projects. One of our initiatives is to do this moonshot idea. We also have to remember that, not everything is beautiful. So we need to remember that there's also a potential of things not working. So we have to be real about, what are some potential things that might make us meander a bit, but in the end, we'll get hopefully to something that's close to what we envisioned. And that's kind of the work of visioning. And that's this part of this graphic. That's the system of influence at the end. In the end, this is all transition design. Oops, did I lose my whole thing? Okay. This pathway, number 2, is all along here. So a midpoint, we're seeing this as maybe like a Circular Cities 2030, like a World's Fair that we can all present our different projects to and kind of, make sure we're all on the right track to get to the place we want to get to in 2050. And then finally, this is kind of the projects that I mentioned. So these pioneers and networks, and these are all different projects that Circular Seattle is working on. And we're trying to network these together. So here's our Kumu map. This is basically working with strategy 1, which is to increase connectivity and develop and refine data. So here's an example. This is all the data that you guys gave us at the last event. So you'll see these are all companies working towards the circular economy. So from what everyone gave us, we found fashion and textiles, consumer products and electronics, food and beverage, cities, which is like buildings, infrastructure, mobility, and then others are like digital and finance. The other is that what we realized was we needed more details. So what we did was we mapped all the players on here to different parts of the butterfly diagram. So an example is like, Beta Hatch, they're doing soil restoration. So we can actually look and see all the groups in our network that are doing soil restoration in this area. So what we decided was we needed to focus a little more because the data gets really complex. We knew that this wasn't the best way to get people involved, but it was a really good way to find out who is involved. And so a lot of the people that we invited to this were either part of this, there's a few folks from this on the call, but we decided, well, what if we focused on the idea, on the community of practice of food, and really just tried to get a few people who are working towards this to see how do we help them work together? Who's doing what? Who's working in compost? Are they collaborating? Who's working in the reuse area around food? Are they working together? And so that's where our sort of next piece comes in. I'll go into the website in a second. I might actually just wait till I get to that next piece, but here's a few other projects before I go into things. So for the engagement content side, we're building a website, and this is going to be, launching our Circular Economy Club site. And you'll be able to access a few of the other ways to get involved. You'll see this high-low community in a second. But that'll be a project that we can all work on together. There was a lot of discussion around just transition at our last event. And so what we've been doing, and this is kind of new to some of the folks here, but we've been working on this idea of really diving deep on what are the root causes that are causing the need for a just transition. And so we're looking at an extractive economy, and we're looking at the different pieces of the puzzle. Like, what is making an extractive economy or a linear economy? What are the economic reasons that are happening? What are the environmental challenges and issues that are coming up? Political. And so what are some of the pieces of the puzzle that are making an extractive economy extractive? And then what are the projects that are actually solving certain parts of that problem? So like for Circular Seattle, we're very much trying to understand why are linear and extractive models incentivized, and how do we incentivize solutions to that? And so that's kind of what Circular Seattle and Circular Economy Club are working on.